Hello friends, this is your humble narrator and host Tony Figueroa, welcoming you back to another video. I thought in today's video what I would do is give you an overview of some of my older and somewhat more recent mass wrestler stuff. For those of you who may not know, I'm the author of Wrestler Zero, writer and artist. I have 2 issues published. I did create a third, but I never published it. This is the back of issue number 2. As you can see, I did my best. I would do it differently now, but it was the best I could do at the time, and you know what? I love it. So at any rate, I thought I would start off with this little drawing here of Tiger Mask. For those who don't know, Tiger Mask was a Japanese wrestling comic from the 60s, created by Ike Kajiwara and Naoki Tsuchi. And then in the early 80s was unforgettably brought to life in the wrestling ring by Satoru Sayama, who revolutionized the pro wrestling game with what he was able to do in the ring. So there's a little piece of Tiger Mask. This is an old drawing I did of Wrestler Zero. I forgot I had it in my archives. It's my first attempt at using some watercolor, acrylic inks, trying to capture highlights, stuff like that. It was the best I could do at the time. I would do it differently now, but you know what? I gave it my all. What more can you say? And in one of my previous videos, I teased this story. It's a short Wrestler Zero story, so I thought I would share the entire story here with you so you can see how it turned out. You might notice that in the sort of my handwritten indicia there, it says Luchador Zero, which means Wrestler Zero in Spanish. I was toying with the idea of calling him Luchador Zero, but ultimately stayed with Wrestler Zero because I don't think most people would know what a luchador is. So wrestler is much more universally understood, at least in, the English-speaking world. So that's basically the intro page. I gave him an old-school wrestler physique, a thicker waist, more of a barrel-shaped chest, not a lot of definition. But I'll tell you, those guys were extremely strong, and that physique was, suited for what they did in the ring. They weren't bodybuilders. So moving on to page 1, what I wanted to do was incorporate the story of Jacob wrestling an angel from the Bible, because I think one of the concepts I had for Wrestler Zero was that wrestling would also be a sort of a metaphorical or symbolic thing, that it isn't just a physical conflict, it's also an internal one as well. So you can see here, they're grappling, and Jacob is just being tossed off, but, he doesn't want to take no for an answer. So in the next page, we go to Wrestler Zero in the ring, and he's in a tight spot. He's in an abdominal stretch, and he's feeling it. He's not invulnerable. He gets out of it with a hip toss, follows it up with a drop kick. The opponent's name is never used, but I call him Crusher Cronin. So there's that. And then we go to the next page, and we're back with Jacob again, and he's having a hard time. He knows he's wrestling against an angel. He's never going to win no matter what he does, but he has to keep trying because that's how it's done. And so he's being thrown off. He gets up, right back at it again. Meanwhile, we show Wrestler Zero here, and I wanted to... Not sure how well I pull this off, but I wanted to sort of contrast his in-ring side with a cemetery, which I'm kind of using to symbolize monsters and stuff like that. And plus it ties into his origin story because he himself died and came back to life. And then you have some creatures coming out of the ground, and then I show him also in the ring. So wrestling is definitely the theme of this particular story. Which I neglected to do in the first issue, by the way. So I had to definitely make up for it in the second issue and in this short story as well. And this is the last page. Wrestler Zero is overcoming, both against these monsters and in the ring with submission hold. And meanwhile, Jacob is lost, but he's gained a sort of eternal glory. His struggle will never be forgotten, which is sort of a victory in and of itself. And not only did he lose, but he also got his name changed to Israel or Israel. And the last panel there is basically the theme of the story, which is everyone is sort of wrestling in their own arena. And, he's wishing you the best with your struggle. So that's really it. So then going here, this is going back a piece I've never shown before, but it's an old Wrestler Zero piece, one of the first colored pieces I had ever done. You can see the approach is very sort of mainstream influenced, and that's fine. That's what I was looking at the time. That's what I was going to reflect. But yeah, I gave it my best. What more can you say? And this next one I've never shown before either. And this is one of Wrestler Zero's villains. And he is the Six-Fingered Man, or the Polydactyl Peril. And yes, you can probably hear a dog barking in the background. That's one of my dogs. He's the Six-Fingered Man, or the Polydactyl Peril. And yes, it's very Jack Kirby-ish. But that's okay. You know, I enjoyed it. And going along with that piece is this piece right here. Also, as you can see, very Kirby-ish, but you know what? I really had a great time doing it in that style. It's a Six-Fingered Man again. He's wielding some kind of mystic artifact against Wrestler Zero. And Wrestler Zero is there wearing an old school championship belt. You know, hey, ready to do battle. And then finally, I think I wanted to end with this page, which I've also never shown. It was supposed to be set, or give you the impression of being set in a small town south of the border. Some tattered, faded posters with El Heretic, El Titan, or the Titan, etc. One of Wrestler Zero. And then I wanted to end it with just 4 kids, each wearing their hero's wrestling mask, which in this case is Wrestler Zero. But the girl, she's wearing a different mask of her favorite wrestler. So there you go. And I think one more page before I go. This is from the unpublished issue number 3 of Wrestler Zero. The premise of this story was that these 2 scientists are receiving messages from beyond. They construct a device. They are able to bring this thing to our world. It turns out he's a vampire, and he's going to wreak all kinds of havoc. And again, I would do it differently, but you know, someday perhaps I may decide to do this story as a whole. Well, look, thank you for coming in. I really appreciate it. Take care, and I will see you on the next video. Bye now.